conference. So I think they've got it. There's going to be a decent chance that they might potentially get knocked off again because you're going to have to rematch somebody who you probably had a pretty tough game with. As far as Clemson, I'm looking around the ACC. I mean, there's a lot of, I think, good teams in the ACC, and I think Clemson's like the best of those good teams, pretty good. Their defensive front is really good, but offensively, they've got some issues. I don't honestly think, like, believe me, if I'm an Ohio State fan, I don't care how you get in, but if you can get matched up with Clemson in that first round, if they slide in there, I think that's what everybody ultimately wants because no one's going to want to play, either Georgia, whether it's Bama, Tennessee, however that kind of shakes out. No one's going to want that matchup, but there's probably
except America who wants a competitive game.
I know, and I'm with you 100%. I'm with you, and so I don't know. Depending on if Michigan, Ohio State, win out and it's a close game at the end, and you go 2-2, I don't know if you can go 3-1 for the SEC, depending on how that ultimately looks. But I agree with you right now, gentlemen, that I believe Clemson is probably the best of the rest of the pack, but I think that there's some serious deficiencies they have that would be exposed against a team with a lot of talent.
Bobby, have Penn State fans just resigned themselves to being the third program in the Big Ten East behind Ohio State and Michigan and just not concerned with catching them because they're nowhere close right now? We saw what happened against Michigan. They are a 15.5-point home underdog this weekend against Ohio State. Crazy things can happen in Happy Valley, but I don't see that one happening. Where do you think this program is right now in the Big Ten under James Franklin?
Well, the one thing, you need a great quarterback to be successful, and Sean Clifford's a good quarterback, and he's a really good game manager. And he had a great scramble against Michigan. He played pretty well. Their offense, the biggest problem, guys, they have good skill position players. Their offensive line has never been really that great. I mean, you go start looking through the NFL ranks, you're not going to find a whole lot of Penn State offensive linemen in the NFL. And you go talk to any coach, I'll take average skill players and a great offensive line every single day of the week because you're going to be able to get push and you can get protection. And average guys can get open and they can find nice holes. And they haven't been very good there. Now, I think this year they probably are resigned because it's been a rough 2 seasons for James Franklin that says, hey, we're going to play Sean Clifford. He's the best to win now. They have a guy in Drew Aller who's really good. He's from Cleveland, Ohio. Given the recruiting situation with the mullet man out of Texas, he ends up committing. So they lose him. He goes to Penn State instead of Ohio State, but he reminds me a lot of Josh Allen. They played Clifford this year because I think they know with him they can get to 9 or 10 wins. But they couldn't beat Ohio State and they can't beat Michigan. But I think Drew Aller coming up is a guy that can do that, but they have to get the offensive line fixed. You look at all of these teams, you've got to protect your quarterback and you have to be able to get pushed up front. And the good teams do that. Penn State has not been able to really do that. Even when they had Saquon Barkley, look at some of the running backs they've had. They've done a great job with the running backs. They just haven't had the front. And so I think a little bit they're resigned to that at this point because, guys, they can't buy them out. It's the same thing with Texas A&M. I mean, you would say you were married to them, except for the fact that, you're more like Siamese twins at this point. You can't get separated. There's nowhere to go.
Bobby Carpenter has been our guest. Always appreciate it, man. And have a good football weekend. It's going to be fun. Here we go. Backstretch of the season. Next time you join us next week, we'll have our rankings out for the college football playoff. We'll get a glimpse of what the committee's thinking, and we'll see where we're headed from there.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. You guys enjoy it.
There's Bobby Carpenter, Sirius XM, Channel 84. Bobby and Jacob Hester. You can catch him talking all things college football and much more. The dreaded vote of confidence was given to Dan Campbell from Lions ownership. Sheila Hamp talked with reporters for 4 minutes today. Exactly.
4 minutes.
I like the timing. Voice support for Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. Asked directly if either with their job, if their job's in jeopardy, no matter what happens this season. It's a very open-ended question. Quote, I believe in the leadership.
Look, I think Dan Campbell's got through next year, but you guys know I've not been a Dan Campbell guy since he was hired. I mean, I understand he brings that kind of animalistic, shall we say, energy, which is a nice shot in the arm for Detroit. I just don't know if he's got the I don't want to call him dumb. I don't think he's dumb.
No.
But I don't know that he's got the, like,
He's gotta have better
CEO qualities.
coordinators.
I don't know that he's got the CEO qualities to me.
Well, so I think Dan Campbell can work because players are going to love him.
Yes.
And they love that mentality, but he's got to hire better
His
coordinators.
defensive coordinator is bad.
And it's a buddy of his, played with him, and Aaron Glenn. He needs to hire better coordinators. That's where, Paul, I'm with you. I think he gets another year, but he's going to have to fire his buddies and hire better coordinators and show progress next year in order to keep the job.
I think you talked about this, Chad, and it was a really good point. Tell me if I'm giving the wrong person credit. It's a kind of dangerous thing in Detroit where you have a little bit of early success and then move on to what you really are. It's almost abusing the fan base that, has been teased a couple times too many and are used to being horrific. You give them that little bit of meat early. Hey, look at us. We score 40 points a game. But all right, let's go. And then you show your true stripes, 2 field goals in 2 games. And everybody's like, oh, hell, we're the same thing we've always been.
And it's not even that. And what I was talking about with it was not just fans, but the players. You have some progress, right? You have the early buy-in. It gets a little better as the year goes. You lose a lot of close games. But you have guys believing all offseason.
And then all of a sudden.
Training camp looked good from a belief standpoint.
You got some
hype
on
you have
Hard
some
Knocks.
offense, and now you're just bad all around. Offense and defense. And then when that falls off, keeping guys engaged and believing, okay, we're going to turn this around eventually, that's tough.
I think they're losing a lot of these games either way, but they can point to a couple of big injuries. In the backfield, DeAndre Swift is out. He's on injured reserve, and he got off to a great start to begin the season. They also have DJ Chark on injured reserve in Detroit, so that they're right now they've got 4 receivers on their active roster.
Jared Goff is fool's gold if you convince yourself he's your guy, which for a little stretch there, he was big time. But Jared Goff's not an NFL winning quarterback. Well, he went to a Super Bowl with Sean McVay in most perfect of circumstances. That's the pinnacle for him in the NFL. He's never going to get close to that again. And look, like it or not, Detroit's got to start where Detroit's always got to start. It's got to go find a quarterback.
Right now, they have the number 1 pick in the draft as of today. And they're 9th in scoring today, despite being shut out by the Patriots and kicking a couple field goals this past week.
Listen, there's a lot of intrigue at the top of this draft. Detroit needs a quarterback. Houston needs a quarterback. Carolina needs a quarterback. Is that just looking to Alabama, Ohio State, and somehow Kentucky? Boom, 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 to 3 quarterbacks up the list. After last year, when there wasn't a quarterback drafted until when?
I'll say this, though, Paul.
I want 22.
21 or 22.
I want picks 1 and 2, and I want Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud.
Me too.
Because I think the drop-off between those 2 guys, and if it is Will Levis at 3, that's a sizable drop-off.
Yeah, I wouldn't look at that as a trio. It might wind up being a draft trio, but I think universally everybody's going to be thinking the third guy is very much a third guy.
I think if you love Will Levis, you're basically saying he's Josh Allen. He possesses all the physical traits you want. He's got a strong arm. We've seen him make great throws. His decision-making at times isn't great, but it can be better. Josh Allen wasn't accurate in college, but he had all the physical tools, and then he became a great NFL quarterback. I think that's the comp to me. He's not as big as Allen, but the comp is this guy's 6'2", 235. He's athletic, strong arm. He could become that.
He's a rare bird, Josh Allen.
I just made the sales pitch for Will Levis, but I don't believe in him as an NFL quarterback. But that's what I'd be selling if I was a believer in Will Levis.
We know how incredibly rare it is that a guy gets more accurate when,
Well, Josh Allen's the only example we can come up with.
You are what you are in terms of accuracy and in terms of throwing motion when you come out of college. That a guy makes a big improvement in one of those 2 areas is like animal on the verge of extinction, spotting one of those. And Josh Allen, to the Bills' credit, is one of those. But are we going to see 2 of those within 5 years? I'm not betting on that. And nor should some NFL front office. The scout and the GM who convinces the owner, hey, I got another one of those in Will Levis. Let's spend the 3rd pick in the draft on him.
I think Bryce Young has Joe Burrow-level feel to his game and moxie. He's not as big as Burrow, but I feel like he's got that it factor.
Yeah, I got no qualms
him.
about the first two. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know if they'll be great or not, but I have no qualms about saying, hey, this is our chance to get a young guy who to build around and grow, and we'll take our
But
chances.
keep this in
with
mind
these
on
two.
Bryce Young. We're going to hear this a lot during the draft process. He's listed at 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
He's probably not 6 feet. And that's going to be the knock on him going
Well, there are
into this
more
draft.
frequent comparisons of short quarterbacks making it work than there are of guys getting more accurate and more. What was the other characteristic we were talking about? That
Decision making
more
being
accurate,
better.
and better decision making.
Right now, Houston's got 2 top 5 picks because they also own the Cleveland Browns selection at number 5.
Wow.
And
And the Eagles have a top 5 pick right
Browns
now.
could wind up 4.
Coming up, primary complaint, and then Mattress Mack joins us. It's all coming up on OutKick 360.
What's up? It's Hutton, Dockich, and Withrow from OutKick.com and OutKick 360. Don't add him with Dan Dockich. It's time for the 3 and 60. 3 questions, 60 seconds. It's that simple. Let's go.
What sport isn't in the Olympics but should be?
Flag football.
Would you rather try to tackle Derrick Henry or get tackled by Daniel Falele?
Knowing I've been tackled before, I don't want to try to tackle Derrick Henry because he would tackle me, so I'm going to serve myself up again for someone that I think would not hit me as hard.
If you could only watch PGA or live for the rest of your life, what are you picking?
Live, because it's all about the money, all about the dollar, and that's what the PGA is about too. They should admit it.
Former NFL offensive lineman Mike Wahle will join us in about 30 minutes. Also, Mattress Mack in 10 minutes on OutKick 360 across the OutKick network. Right now, though, it's time for Primary Complaint.
It's time to air our top grievance of the week.
You can complain all you want.
My job is so unfulfilling. Don't run away from your feelings.
It's time for Primary Complaint on OutKick 360.
Guys, my primary complaint this week is with Frank Reich, because the quote today, "We are not waving the white flag. That's not in our DNA. That's not in my DNA. I would never do that in a million years." He's referring to benching Matt Ryan and going with Sam Ehlinger. That in and of itself might be true, because if they wanted to tank, I would just continue to play Matt Ryan. But the reason why they're waving a white flag is because Frank Reich refuses to make the offense go through Jonathan Taylor. He's the issue, not the quarterback. That's my primary complaint.
My primary complaint this week is for drive-thrus. We live in a world now where people can work from home with video conferencing and never go to an office. Something I realized when we were all forced to wear a mask was that I can't understand people oftentimes when they talk and I can't see their mouth move and I can't see what's going on. Do we not have the technology at a drive-thru to have a video-on-video conversation with the person taking our order? I think this would clear up a lot of confusion in the order process. I want to see the person taking my order on that screen, the digital screen. They can see me also. We can have a human-to-human interaction and improve the drive-thru experience for all. This is my primary complaint.
My primary complaint is Dunkin' Donuts. Unfortunately, on some days when I'm coming here from Titan's facility and I haven't planned my meals well, my only option is to stop there and grab something. Too often. They even maybe know me there a little bit. Like grab a muffin, grab a donut, grab a muffin and a donut. Today, you know, they've got big racks that fill with donuts. They had 7 items. 7 items. I joked with them. I was like, hey, it's a big selection you got there today. And she said, you know, we open at 4 a.m. I said, well, you know, 4 a.m. didn't fit my schedule today, but you're open now. You got 7 items. I ate 2 of them.
How are they?
Didn't
Stale?
stop you.
Yeah, not fresh.
Yeah.
They weren't fresh from the oven.
It's a sign that it's not going to go very well in the taste if it's 7 items and they're ready to close.
I ate them fast. I was hungry.
I once encountered the most impressive fast food worker I've ever witnessed at a Dunkin' Donuts close to my house. We called him the 14-year-old CEO. The guy was managing a Dunkin' Donuts. He appeared to be 12, but he had to be like a not even driving teenager, just able to work. And the way he dealt with the customers and was handling everything in that store, I would hire that kid in a heartbeat. So
Smooth.
that was a better
happen.
that was a better Dunkin' experience than you had today, Paul.
I mean, the ladies that work there are very pleasant, and she joked with me on my way out. Hope we have a lot of stuff for you next time you come. And then I accidentally started to go into somebody else's car, and I think it was one of the workers, and she pretended like she was going in to tell on me, and I was like, "Don't call the police."
Coming up, Mattress Mack, massive Astros fan, super fan. He can't lose, no matter who wins the World Series, but there's a $75 million payout if the Astros do. Mattress Mack, founder of GallerySports.com and Gallery Furniture. He joins us next. We'll dive into the money at stake. If you're looking for a place to bet on a game today or a futures wager, head to OutKick's Odds Finder. OutKick.com/odds. It's where you'll find spreads, totals, and moneyline odds for every upcoming game. I love it because it's super easy to navigate. Bookmark OutKick.com/odds and make OutKick bets a part of your daily sports betting routine. For bets decided by season-long results, head to OutKick's Futures Finder. OutKick.com/futures. Just select your state, place your bet. It's honestly that simple. And similar to the Futures Finder, the Prop Bet Finder allows you to search by player, team, or game for any sport. Check out the OutKick.com/props, and from there, click the Odds tab. You'll go directly to the Sportsbook to place your bet. Boost your game day experience with OutKick Bets. OutKick.com/bet. Get the edge with OutKick bets. Glad you're with us across the OutKick network this afternoon. The crew is all here. We're talking all things college and pro football. We've got some trades going down across the NFL, quarterbacks who will start this weekend. We'll have those details coming up. World Series first pitch coming up on Friday. It was OutKick 360 continues from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. We say hello to a man endorsed by John McClain, who joins us weekly from GallerySports.com. Jim McInville is the founder of GallerySports.com, Gallery Furniture. Mattress Mack joins us, where the Astros in the World Series yet again. Matt, congratulations as a super fan on doing this and running it back. And I don't know how you do it, but you have a very high tolerance for risk.
Congratulations to the Houston Astros on helping me overcome my high tolerance for risk.
Okay.
I lost $10 million on the Super Bowl last year when they called those penalties on Cincinnati in the last few minutes. And I was walking out of this place where I was watching the game. They said, "How long did it take you to get over it?" I said, "I'm over it next."
So, Mattress Mack, our guest on OutKick 360, how much money do you have riding on the World Series as the first pitch is thrown on Friday? And tell us what's at stake.
Well, you know, we run a promotion that said if the customers buy $3,000 or better worth of mattresses, if the Astros win the season-ending championship, a.k.a. the World Series, to get your money back. So I bet a lot of futures bets on this one. About I bet $10 million of futures bet, blended price 7.5. So if the Astros win the World Series, I will pay back the customers $75 million.
How did you piece together this bet? How many different places did you have to go? And what was the maximum you could bet at one place? How reluctant were people to take these big bets?
Well, I started out at in Louisiana at Wynn Casino. I bet $1 million there at 12-1. Then I went to Caesars. Caesars is always kind of the lead underwriter of all this stuff. And I bet $3 million at Caesars at 10-1. Then I bet $2 million at Barstools, Betfred, Unibet, and I bet $4 million at MGM, all at 5-1. So that's kind of how the way it laid out.
And are you doing this? John has told us the story. You hop in a helicopter and go town to town and place these bets all in one fell swoop. Is that right?
Yeah, I either fly over to Louisiana, which is only about 90 miles from Houston, or I drive there. And then the last bets, I had to make some in Louisiana. Then I had to fly to Iowa and bet at Betfred and Unibet there. Then I had to fly to Las Vegas and bet there at 2:30 in the morning at the Bellagio Hotel MGM property. And they opened up a sports casino for me. I bet $2 million there to win 10. Then I flew back to Houston and got home at 6:30 and went to work at 8. So if you're going to gamble, you got to work.
Is there a single sports book or casino that doesn't know you at this point?
They probably all know me, but they don't all like to take action. I can tell you that much.
So you know going in exactly where you need to go, and you know the places where you're persona non grata.
I don't know that I'm persona non grata, but the big bets they frown on. Some places would rather just grind it out. Some will gamble all you want. Caesars has never turned me down, so they're a great bookie place to take big time action. They've done very well. Barstools treats me good. Several of them treat me very well. MGM, etc.
And is it important that you go one after the other when you're traveling to these places where word doesn't spread over days or weeks that you're placing these big bets and they start talking to other casinos, or does that not matter at all?
I generally work out the price and the amount before I go there because I don't want them getting there and I'm on the computer at 3 a.m. and they say, well, we're going from 5-1 to 3-1. That has happened before and it wasn't good for either party. So I work out all the terms before I get in the car or airplane or helicopter to go make the bet.
Take us back, if you will, to early in your career. Like, what's the first time you came up with a deal like this for your customers where you had maybe, buy this much, and if a team wins, you get your money back or you get a percentage? When's the first time you came up with a promotion like something like this?
That was years ago when the Texans first got in the NFL. And they were playing the mighty hated Dallas Cowboys up the road. And so I did a promotion. I think the Texans were like 12 points underdog. I did a promotion, said if the Texans beat the Cowboys and you buy X amount of furniture, you get the money back. I didn't insure it at all. And at halftime, the Texans were up by 14 points. I was going to lose about $2 million uninsured. And that was a whole lot of money back then. So I was very nervous, but the Cowboys won in the end. So that first convinced me that people loved buying furniture, getting the furniture, and then having the chance to get it free if their team wins a game.
Mattress Mack joins us. When's the last time you were nervous on a bet?
When I bet on Vince Young and the University of Texas in the Rose Bowl in 2005, I bet $150,000. I think at plus 300. That was a nice bet and a nice win. After that, I kind of got used to it. My wife still gets very nervous, but I don't sweat it.
So what's it like watching a game with you? Let's say the Super Bowl. You've got $10 million on the Super Bowl, you just said, and there's some penalties late that you don't like, and it doesn't go your way in the end. Are you getting worked up at all, or is it just a walk in the park for you at this point?
My blood pressure gets a little worked up. I throw a few things, say a couple of bad words, and I walk out, and it's all over. I try to be like a baseball hitter. You strike out, you got to get over it and go to the next one, or a golfer.
What makes you most, I don't know if nervous is the right word, but if you're looking at Astros, Phillies, what's your biggest concern with the Phillies?
Philly obviously hits very well. They have good hitters, two great pitchers, but the Astros have had lights out pitching all year and timely hitting. So it should be a great series. I felt like the Astros were going to beat Washington, the Nationals, a couple of years ago. and they didn't make it there. Didn't make it last year against Atlanta, but I think this is our year. The Astros model is level up, and if they level up, they'll have 4 World Series appearances, 2 wins, 2 losses. That would level it up.
What prompted you to create a sports website and to hire McLean and collect a bunch of great writers from around Houston who have big reputations there, big bylines, and obviously going to drive traffic to your site?
A lot of the guys that used to work at the Houston Chronicle, for whatever reason, are not there anymore, and they're great writers like John McClain, Richard Justice, John Lopez, etc. And they're local guys. I know most all of them, so we decided to start this Gallery Sports, focused mainly on Texas and Louisiana college and professional teams, and give people a deep insight on some of this stuff, and then eventually do some sports gambling news on a different site. So that's what we're doing. It's gone very well so far. It's a free site, gallerysports.com, and looking to a lot of coverage on the next week as the Houston Astros play for the World Series. And of course, with my $75 million bet, which would be the biggest win in legal American gambling history.
GallerySports.com, the website. John McClain writes there. He joins us weekly right here on OutKick 360 and has joined us on our radio shows for years. When did you know that you loved to gamble? Was it the first bet you placed? Did it take a little bit of time? When did you decide, hey, this is something that I'm really passionate about?
Well, it was when I was in Catholic school and grade school, and we'd pitch quarters against the wall.
Did you win?
Who won,
Did you usually win?
I won a lot and I lost a few, but and then I played poker with all my friends during high school. So that was when I figured out that I had a high tolerance for risk, and I have a high tolerance for risk in everything I do. So risking doesn't bother me. Some people are more conservative. God bless them. I'm not.
Mattress Mack with us. How much free advertising would you estimate you've received if we put a dollar amount on this over the years?
Well, let me put it in this perspective. I went to Bellagio MGM at 2:30 in the morning to place that big bet on the Astros a couple months ago. I'm walking through the casino at 2:30 in the morning. These 2 young guys come up and say, "Hey, Mattress Mack, how you doing?" I said, "Where are y'all from?" They said, "We're from Toronto, Canada." I said, "How in the hell do you know me?" She said, "From sports gambling." So I imagine I've received over $100 million in free advertising publicity over the years with all these different promotions. Like, it started off really heavy when Denver lost to Seattle in the Super Bowl many years ago. That was a $9 million uninsured loss, and then just kind of propagated from there.
I mean, you realize that especially all the guys, we live vicariously through you, because we'll never be in a position to do something like this. So the perspective that you have is something that everyone would like to just get a small amount of experience with. And again, the last time you were nervous was Vince Young in the Rose Bowl, which is amazing to me.
Yeah, it's like writing a check for $1,000 or $10,000 or $1 million. Just a couple more zeros. That's all it is.
Yeah, just a couple more zeros. How'd you get into mattresses and furniture?
I was broke in 1981. I needed a job. Started selling mattresses. Found out I was good at it. My wife and I moved to Houston in April of 1981 with $5,000. Never borrowed a dime, and here we are 42 years later. And I still work the front desk where I'm at right now, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. Work is life's greatest therapy, and I'm getting lots of therapy right here every day.
Is it true that your high school coach was among those who arrested Lee Harvey Oswald?
Well, it was my when I was in 7th grade playing football, one of the coaches, they coached for free, obviously. Yeah. It was a little Catholic school, and the 7th grade coach was named Bob Barrett. He was an FBI agent, and he arrested Lee Harvey Oswald in the Texas Theater. And so I was very much aware of that part of history back in 1963.
How much did he talk about it at the time?
You know, I think they ended up kind of blaming the Lee Harvey Oswald thing on 4 or 5 different FBI agents. He was kind of one of them, so they moved him out of town, and it was kind of sad, but that was all part of history. Another girl in my class, her father was standing 10 feet away from Jack Kennedy when his head got blown off, and he was also on PT 109 with Jack Kennedy when it went down the Pacific.
Wow.
Greatest sports event you've ever attended, Mac?
It had to be Astros Yankees Astros Dodgers, that wild game. I think it was Game 5 in 2017. That was a great event. The Rose Bowl with Vince, because I'm very close personal friends with Vince a couple of years ago. And then when the Astros clinch this year, that'll be the cherry on the cake.
Will you go to Philadelphia? Will you go to the games in Philadelphia?
I'm going to Philadelphia. I hear the fans are very nasty. I'm looking very much forward to it.
And how many tickets roughly do you have to the World Series right now?
Here, look at them.
Yeah, let's see them. Oh, wow.
Jeez.
I mean, are you doing this?
He's holding up a couple of rubber band, at least 2 or 3, filled with tickets.
So
I have about 300 tickets. I looked at my bill today and I started to faint. 285,000.
So I'm coming to Houston on Saturday afternoon because I'm covering the Texan game on Sunday. Who should I go to get the one ticket that you don't have?
You should call me. My number is 281.
Hold on. Go ahead.
281-844-1963.
It's that phone that's been ringing.
Tell me you and I were on OutKick. Come out here to Galloway Furniture North Freeway, and I will give you one of these Houston Astro tickets to see Game 2 with my friend Framber Valdez. I got a great story on him. You want to hear it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
He comes out here to buy furniture. I think it was Tuesday night, and nice guy. His wife, super nice, bought a lot of furniture from us. So he picks out all these things, and we said, "What time do you want it delivered?" And it was like 8:30 at night. He said, "I'm not going to deliver it. I'm going to pick it up." And he had a brand new pickup truck. So he goes over to our pickup dock, and the guy jumps in the back of the truck, helping him load the furniture in there. And then the guys get in the truck. He's loading all this stuff up, and they want to tie it down. He says, "You don't have to tie it down. I got to go." And they said, "No, we got to tie it down or it'll come up on the road." So we tied it down. And he took it down to the port of Houston, put it on a ship to go do it at his mom's house in the Dominican Republic. What a guy.
That's awesome.
Amazing. That's amazing.
And Paul, look at that. You're going to go to the World Series now. How about that?
My heart just skipped a beat.
Mac, I'm curious, are you going to try to sell is Paul going to come back from Houston with a brand new bedroom suit as well? Or you got to ship that back up to Nashville?
Yeah, we'll twist his arm. That's
we'll
right.
Get Fromber to ship it up for me.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all got Amy Adams out there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
In my book, she's absolutely terrific. I bought a package last year when they played in this playoff game, and it was $4,000 or $5,000 for the Oilers. I mean, for the Titans charities. She personally sent me a note and called me and thanked me for doing that. She's terrific.
Yeah, she's a class act, and she's really brought them into modern times, which they were lagging behind.
Some charity events here as well with us. Which, you're right. She's one of a kind for sure, especially for this city.
She takes great care of all the ex-Oiler players too.
They just had homecoming weekend on Sunday when they beat the Colts, and there were a bunch of Oilers here, including Pastorini planted the sword at midfield before they kicked off.
How's everything in Nashville? I hear y'all the hottest growth city in the country.
We're getting a dome.
Too much growth. We need a moratorium on growth.
Yeah, get the new NFL stadium.
You're going to be buying a couple of suites at the Super Bowl here soon.
Yep.
Is that right? Don't say a moratorium on growth. All those furniture stores out there need new houses so they can sell more furniture.
Right. So you're a brotherhood with all the other furniture and mattress guys, huh?
That's right. We got to huckster. We got to sell. We got to promote.
What else are you betting on this weekend?
I'm trying to get something going on in World Cup because Houston has a huge Hispanic population. So I'm thinking I'm going to do a promotion that says if Team USA and Team Mexico make it through the first round of the World Cup, you get your money back. And I think I can get some 2 or 2.5 to 1 odds on that.
I didn't know if you had a pick for the Titans Texans we could all play or something in the NFL.
Have you ever seen a bet of yours shift the line immediately?
All the time.
I mean, how many don't at this point when you make a big
Mac,
bet?
Let's shift the line right now. Let's just make a bet. Can you do that? Do you have an app? Can you just pull up? Let's shift the line immediately.
I had $75 million bet insurance on this game, and I figured we'd run the promotion all the way through Friday right before the game started. We had to stop the promotion on Monday because we went through that. We had the biggest day in 42 years on Sunday and then topped that by 20% on Monday. So the demand was huge. We already filled up the $75 million in liability. And for me to get some more bet insurance, then I got to lay 200 to win 100, and I ain't going that route.
So how much business was that on Monday?
About $9 million.
Oh man.
Wow.
Well done.
That's a lot of furniture.
You are.
Well done.
I mean, there should be a book written about you. Anybody propose that?
I got a couple books, but I got some new material. The books I have are about 10 or 12 years old. I need to write a new one and talk about all my successes and my many million failures, because to be a promoter, you got to strike out more than you hit a home run. So sometimes you hit home runs, a lot of times you strike out. There was lots of teams I bet on last year trying to get them to the Final Four and Futures Best, didn't make it, but that's the way it is. I bet on Tennessee. I really liked their men's basketball team last year, but they didn't make it.
Well, forget the book. I want to watch the movie about Mattress Mack.
Who
this
plays
thing
you?
needs to go straight to film.
Who plays you in a movie?
Who plays me in the movie? My son, James.
All right, that sounds good.
Mattress Mack has been our guest. Gallery, Furniture Gallery, Sports.com. John McClain raves about him and has loved the first couple of months writing at the site, Jim. We've loved this visit as well. We certainly appreciate it. And Paul's
Mac, I'm going to dial your number right now.
Go ahead and let that phone ring, Paul. Let's get the number rolling in there. Stack of tickets is waiting. What seat are you giving him?
Worst seat in the house.
I'm giving him one right behind the Astros dugout.
Wow.
We'll
set up.
All right, we're going to break, Hutton.
Oh, my goodness.
Thanks a lot, Mac.
Hey, Mattress Mack, thank you.
You're the man.
I got it, Paul, in Nashville. I'll see you on Saturday.
All right. Mattress Mack has been our guest.
What a visit.
How quickly, it's very, Paul was down on the Yankees, and then he was quickly up on the Yankees.
Don't tell him anything about the Yankees.
And then
what are you doing?
He, now he's behind the Astros bench, and he's going to act like it's all cool.
Paul's all for the Astros now.
You show up wearing Yankees gear. That's exactly what you have to do.
No, please wear a Ken Caminiti jersey. You got. I mean, if you're getting the hookup with Mattress Mack, you got to go.
I got a lot of decisions.
You got to go all in on the
I got a lot of decisions to make.
I love it. And,
but I got to go call him for real.
Yeah. Well, his phone's ringing. You called him.
No, I know. He I think hung up
Oh,
on
he
it.
hung up on
Just
you.
like he got my number. So I need to just go make sure what the arrangements are.
Go call him.
Mattress Mack has been our guest. Big thanks to John McClain for hooking us up there with that visit. And from Lee Harvey Oswald to 75 million riding on the World Series. Amazing.
I don't know how you're not nervous. That's
amazing
insane.
Story. Well, either way, he wins because he's got the money from the furniture.
There's no such thing as a can't lose deal, and he's got one.
A $9 million day at a furniture store.
But he's really got 10 million riding on it.
Right. Yeah.
Because the payout's 75.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're right in that he wins. He had a $9 million day.
Yeah.
On Sunday. He just told us his best day in 42 years.
It's ingenious.
Mike Wahle joins us as we chat NFL offensive line play, which I think is down across the league. I'm no expert here. We'll talk to one, the host of the On My Block pod. That is coming up next, and Paul is about to race out and try to lock in this dugout seat.
Yeah, make sure that wasn't for entertainment value only.
I don't think it was.
I don't either.
I can't wait to find out what you're purchasing.
You guys want a chair?
Stay tuned. More NFL discussion coming up on OutKick 360.
So we have a predetermined order that we're going to go in, and what we're going to do is we're going to drive tailgate food and or drink. I know Hutton, he's going to go with drinks more than likely. I'm going to start with food. We're going 1, 2, 3 in order, 5 rounds. Tailgate draft, here we go. Guys, I'm all about functionality. I love to just hold a bun out and then have that bun filled with a hot dog from someone fresh off the grill. I'm going hot dog with my #1 overall pick because of that functionality.
Well, I'm going beer. If there's no beer, I might as well be in church. Who cares if there's no beer?
True.
Chad screwed me by telling Dockage what my plan was here, so I'm taking the burgers. And do I get? Is this snake draft? Is it my pick in the second round here?
Yeah.
Wings, burgers and wings. I own them.
I'm going with ribs. I love ribs. I'll eat ribs. Good ribs, bad ribs. I don't care. I'll eat ribs and beer.
I'm going to stay consistent because I'm all about functionality. You need shots at a tailgate. You need an occasion to gather around as a community and take a shot of something. I don't care if it's Fireball, bourbon, whatever you want to go with, tequila. You got to have a bottle of something in handle form that you can shoot out of. That's a key.
I tell you what, Jello shots are pretty daggone good, but I'm going nachos as well. Look, you give me queso, you give me chips, When I am on death row, I'm going to ask for shrimp and nachos and beer.
Give me the brats. That doesn't count as a hot dog. I'm going brats with the next pick. I've got burgers, wings, brats. I'm crushing this the same way the Jets crushed the recent draft.
Do you go again?
It's my again, isn't it? After that, did you take all shots? Like all liquor?
Yeah, I guess that I had 2 picks. It was a shot of tequila and a fireball shot, and then I went back 2. I didn't really make 2 picks, but that's how we're going to do it.
Oh, you should have done that, so go ahead.
You want me to go again?
Yeah.
Chips.
Because he didn't do 2 picks.
I'm going to go with chips for this reason. If you're getting drunk at a tailgate, you're going to want some carbs at some point, so chips are key.
Well, chips are certainly a key, but I got to have a dessert. I got to have brownies. You can put whatever you want in the brownies. Don't matter to me. It's a Saturday or it's a Sunday.
Stoner.
Well, I've never done it, but I've heard. And I like brownies. I love brownies. No, I really love brownies. Brownies should have been my first pick.
So at this point, I've got to have something to drink here. So if Chad took all liquor, I'm screwed here because I have no beer or liquor, correct?
Well, I took tequila and fireball shots.
Oh.
So you can go with something else.
Yeah, give me the moonshine. Give me Old Smoky Moonshine. We're good to go on all flavors. I own the entire rack at 6 and Peabody.
Well, I guess because of how much we're drinking apparently and eating, I need my wife here to be a driver. In the draft, I need a designated driver apparently. But you know what I think we're missing? I do think we're missing, you mentioned chips. I assume you mean nacho chips, that kind of thing. You know what I need? I need peanut butter pretzels. I'm going to tell you right now. Little pretzels with peanut butter in the middle of it. Don't knock it until you've tried it, particularly with wine. Hard day, you're having a glass of wine, get yourself a jug here from Costco of peanut butter pretzels. Unbelievable.
So I'm about to win the draft right here. I think this is my 5th and final pick. I don't know. I'm bad with numbers. Boys, pigs in a blanket. Can't go wrong. Put a little mustard out, have a huge platter of pigs in a blanket. It fulfills everything. It's got your protein, it's got the carbs, it's wonderful, and it's perfect for any tailgate.
Yeah, I'm gonna go pulled pork with my last one. You throw a big plate of pulled something.
That's a good one.
Slap some whatever barbecue sauce you like, hot, not. You need it. Maybe a bun, maybe you don't need a bun. Doesn't matter. You don't even need a fork. Just use your face.
Or get those claws on it where you mix it up and pull it apart. I love doing that.
Going. Yes, there you go. Go pulled pork.
You know what? This will not shock Chad at all. We're going with the straight run through of all the vegetable platter,
the veggie
salad,
tray,
everything, the veggie tray.
You just lost.
That's honestly what I would eat, and I've already thrown the best tailgate food ever, and I'm taking my food in the last pick.
Hunt would be perfect for a tailgate in San Francisco or Portland, Oregon with that. With the vegan selection, it would be perfection.
I would imagine we all think we won the draft, but when he went to veggies, I know who lost the draft.
But okay, fair
But
enough.
you look good. You're skinny.
Tied for 1st and 3rd. That's how we're going to do it.
Dockets is in Nashville.
He's back.
Love it.
He's back.
Here's to Nash Vegas, baby.
Cheers, boys.
Yes, sir.
And those headlines include Robert Quinn from the Bears traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. Welcome back to OutKick 360. The Eagles acquire Robert Quinn in exchange for a 4th-round pick. We already knew they were all in. They're all in. They're going for it, and they should. Mac Jones also reportedly took 90% of the first-team reps today for the Patriots. They're playing the Jets this Sunday. Mike Wahle joins us. Former NFL offensive lineman, started his career with the Green Bay Packers, ended it with the Seahawks, and now he's a podcast host of the On My Block pod. We're talking offensive line and more with the 11-year NFL guard. Mike, good to see you, man. Thank you for the time. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
So I'm looking at NFL scoring down, and I'm seeing I think I don't know what the average number of teams would be. I think we're above average on the number of offenses, to me, the inexperienced eye here, it just looks very average to mediocre play right now across the league. How much of that is due to what's happening up front on the offensive line across the league?
That's a good question. I think that the line play is significantly down over the last 10 years. I think execution of offense is down. I think that like the technical ability of players is significantly down. I think we rely a lot more on creating space, using scheme, having really good athletes as opposed to having really good football players, guys that have an incredible amount of football intelligence, guys that are kind of purpose-built for their position, to put a lot of time into their craft. I think that's down across the league. There's a number of reasons for that. Certainly up front, you look at the college football landscape and all the spread offenses that have been put in. I mean, from a technical mastery standpoint, these guys come in very, very underwhelmingly able as opposed to what you saw maybe 20 years ago as far as just masters of their craft. And you have some really good athletes, but you have a lot of basketball players, not a lot of football players.
I think that's a good way to put it. And I also think that we hear a lot about, Brady makes the offensive line in New England so much better. I also, from your perspective, how much can a quarterback make an offensive line look bad? And the O-line's playing well. It's the quarterback issue, but the O-line's taking the grief, at least the heat publicly.
Yeah. So you can point to a number of guys earlier in their careers, and then you could point to Russell Wilson, for the last 4 years in Seattle, let Russ cook. That whole idea, if you hold the ball longer, make your offensive line look bad, but you throw the ball late on scramble plays, that he's a hero and everybody else is going to get fired. And that happened early in Ben Roethlisberger's career. That happened early, actually, in Aaron Rodgers' career. He was holding the ball for too long, and guys were getting kind of bad looks. I think, there's not a lot of stats that I buy into. But one of the stats that is kind of important when I look at it is the time to throw, because that really does kind of paint a picture of what that offensive line, what that offense is designed around. And then you have to look at, obviously, are they running a lot of gun play action? Are they running under center play action? Is it drop back, et cetera? But just that's a general kind of marker of like, if that number is high, you could probably tell that people don't like that offensive line.
So, Mike, it's odd when you see the offensive problems across the league, because it's a league that in their headquarters, they make decisions with rules to help the quarterback and help offenses pretty consistently over the last 10 years, let's say. Does that extend to offensive line play in terms of what you're seeing allowed by offensive linemen? Or is that an area where maybe it hasn't really changed to help offense? I'm talking about holding. I'm talking hands to the face, everything you've seen. Is there leniency more so on the offensive line than defensive line in those settings? Or have you not really seen a change from when you played to now?
I think when the people on Fifth Avenue are thinking about the game and thinking about how to make more money, they go through the Rolodex in their head of all the positions that are important. I think offensive line's like right above placeholder, right? I don't think it's very high. I don't see much of a difference. I know that when I've been in buildings and talking to players, I think they feel that, or I know that they feel like they're getting less calls for them than they used to. In other words, they're getting called for more holding calls. They think it's more procedural. I don't necessarily agree with that. But one thing that happens is when you're not allowed to inflict violence on another human like you used to be able to, because the consequence of that, I think, is you're going to get more penalties, whether those are holding penalties, whether those are just finishing on the finishing to the ground, these different scenarios where you have your hands inside, outside, you're not running your feet enough. There's all these same things that can happen, but when you're trying, when you're trying to reduce violence and the position that you play is inherently violent, you're probably not going to see those calls like maybe we're used to seeing some of the other things for the quarterback.
Let's talk about a few of your old teams here. Seattle, one of the two best surprises in the league with the Giants. Turns out that Pete Carroll knew what he was talking about with regard to both Russell Wilson and Geno Smith. Geno's got to level off at some point, but still way better than any outsider could have reasonably expected, even if they were disciple of Pete Carroll. What are you seeing out of Seattle, and how sustainable is it in your eyes?
They're my coach / general manager of the year right now for just the windfall that they got from the Broncos for a guy that they came to the conclusion that he wasn't the guy for their offense, that he maybe, I don't know if he'd lost a step or not. That kind of came out later on, but certainly the let Russ cook idea wasn't the way to win a championship in Seattle under Pete Carroll's regime. And for them to go out there, make that bold move, get a ton of draft picks. I mean, you look at their draft class now this year. I mean, I think 5 of their top 6 guys are not only starting, but like making significant impact on their team. And for me personally, I love the way that Pete Carroll thinks about the game. Like, this game is not a very difficult game. Like, it's not a very complicated game. And I think in the last 10 years, because offensive coordinators get promoted and get paid a lot of money to drop schemes on Visio and PowerPoint, we forget that this is a game about blocking and tackling and doing simple things very, very well and executing at a high level. And that's what Pete's all about. That's what he's always been all about. He's been that way since he was at USC. And I don't know how sustainable it is for Geno Smith. You're certainly happy for the guy to have this kind of resurrection of his career and show that he's, a top player in this league as of right now. Is he going to return to the mean? They have weapons around him. They invested in 2, high draft picks with tackles. They have an offensive line that looks like it's on the rise. They have that 2nd round draft pick running back that's playing extremely well. They have receiver. I mean, they have weapons. So it's like in this league with all the, like you just said, all of the favoritism that's given the offense. If you're going to put all those weapons on the same field, and now you're going to simplify an offense that really just turns into, can we out execute with the stuff that we know how to do? I think a guy like Geno Smith can flourish in that offense.
On the other side of the negative storylines that are surprised, Packers, I think most of us thought they'd drop off from the 13 wins, but this is the other extreme, the direction they're going right now. Do you think they're going to dig out of it, and how?
That's a really good question, and I'm not sure what the answer is. When you hear Aaron Rodgers, I think the question you have to ask yourself about the Green Bay Packers right now is like, who runs the team? Inherently, everybody flippantly says, well, of course the quarterback runs the team. But when you're in this situation and the quarterback's out here telling the truth, if you have guys that are making a lot of mental errors, they can't be in the game. I don't care how talented they are. I don't care if they're veterans. I don't care if they're rookies. If you're making too many mental errors, you're just affecting the game in a negative way to the point where you don't belong on the field. And a lot of people have a problem with what he said this past Tuesday was on the Pat McAfee show. I think a lot of players don't have any problem with it, because that's exactly how we all feel. If you can't go in there and execute, then you shouldn't be in the game. On the other hand, there's a lot of, we need to simplify the offense. These players don't need to play. And it's all getting out of the building in a way that right now doesn't seem right. And basically Aaron Rodgers to me is saying, look, I'm really good. I've proven that I'm really good. I work hard to be really good. I need help. And head coach, help me. I'm asking you to help me. Please help me. And we just have to see if Matt LaFleur is the kind of guy, for the first time under his coaching regime, they actually have a problem. They can't execute. They can't find the right combination of plays. They have an all-pro level running back that they won't feed the ball. Like, we need to figure out if he's the guy that's going to be able to help Aaron Rodgers dig the team, or the offense at least, out of this hole.
Mike, I know I don't have to explain this to you, but there are certain quarterbacks who I define as an offensive lineman's quarterback, whether it be their personality, style, just the way they interact with their offensive linemen. That's the offensive lineman, they really respect and play harder for that quarterback. Is Aaron Rodgers an offensive lineman's quarterback?
I think Bakhtiari is his best friend. I think
so. That tells you that should tell you a lot.
Yeah. The short answer is yes. And I played with Brett there, and Brett's an offensive lineman's guy as well. If you're an intelligent, Jake Delhoma's an offensive lineman's quarterback. Matt Hasselbeck's an offensive lineman's quarterback. I mean, guys that understand the offense well enough to get rid of the ball when it's time to get rid of the ball are an offensive lineman's dream. Tom Brady can't run, but he knows when to get rid of the ball. Lamar Jackson, he can make you look good when you might look bad. All these guys are offensive linemen's dreams. And then I think the other part of that is, are you willing to put your own body on the line to win a game for your team? Like, everyone else is sacrificing their body. There's some guys in the league, and I'm not going to call people out, but there's quarterbacks in this league that everybody knows that are a little soft, and they've never limped off the field in their life. And those guys, most offensive linemen at least, don't have a lot of time for. But generally speaking, we love quarterbacks, right? Because that's our whole job is to love them.
Are you watching a lot of college football every weekend?
I love the NFL. I love watching the matchups at the highest level. I'm a very, very casual college football fan.
Well, and I only ask that because, and maybe you have an answer, maybe you don't. Wisconsin is known as one of those programs that produces great NFL offensive linemen. If there's anyone currently, it may not be Wisconsin now with their issues and having to fire their coach, but if there's a team that you've seen in the college game and you think, I like the way they coach their offensive linemen to play the game in this program.
Oh boy, that's a great question. It's funny when you look at offensive linemen in that have had success coming out. It's like even Alabama's like the easiest one to look at because they have so many good guys, right? But a lot of their guys, if you look at they don't pan out in the NFL.
Yeah,
you have for every great player, you have an Alex Leatherwood type character. And so I think with offensive linemen, and I always kind of look at this Staley from the Chargers pick last year that just tore his biceps. I mean, he was, in my opinion, between him and Sewell, he was the class of that draft. I mean, he just had it all in college. You could see the technical ability, you could see the power, you could see the body positioning, the hip hinge. He had it all right there already. And so I think when you look at the offensive line play, there's certainly a level of football intelligence that guys walk into out of college as far as the preparation, as far as like mental preparation and the ability to kind of upload the NFL playbook at a faster rate than everybody else. But when you look at the individual and their ability to execute, for me, it really is almost like a case-by-case basis. I don't know that I've seen a line across the board where I'm like, man, they're just doing it better than everybody else.
Mike Wahle, our guest, host of the On My Block pod. Your rookie year was 98.
Yes.
What are practices like with Reggie White, Gilbert Brown, with Santana Dotson, Vonnie Holiday? How often were you going up against them? That was the year that Reggie had 16 sacks.
Did you say embarrassing?
Yeah, it was embarrassing. So I'll give you a quick story. My first day on the job, I held up for 3 weeks. My agent, Neil Cornrich, decided that he wanted to have a shorter contract length, and I was a supplemental draft pick. So I'd already missed everything, like all the mini camps, everything already. So we're like 3 weeks into training camp, and I get my helmet, I put my pads on, I sign my contract. I'm so happy, and I walk out there. And I remember I played option offense at the Naval Academy, right? I don't know how to take a pass. So Mike Holmgren comes over, and he goes, hey, did you get what you wanted? Are you happy you signed? Or, congratulations. And I open my mouth to say, yeah, thanks. And he just lambasts. He just roasts the hell out of me. Just, swearing at me. He's pissed because he doesn't like guys holding out, right? So he says a couple of choice words. And then I almost immediately, I know this isn't the sequence of events, but I feel like immediately I had to walk over and get in this like one-on-one line where I had to do one-on-one pass rush. And the first guy was it was Reggie, Santana, Gilbert, Vonnie, Von Booker, Billy Lyon. And then I had to go through the whole line again. No, and then Jonathan Brown, who was the 3rd round pick out of Tennessee. I had to go through that on the whole round twice, or the whole group twice. I lost every single pass rush. It probably took me 3 to even figure out what a stance was supposed to look like. I got Gilbert's throwing me over the bag. Reggie's clubbing me and throwing me to the side. I mean, it was Santana's doing a shot club rip. It was embarrassing. And at the same time, you're like, God, this is, I'm doing the greatest thing in the world. I'm over here getting my ass kicked this is the best thing in the world, right? So it was fun going up against those guys. I think that I really annoyed them because I didn't know what I was doing, but Naval Academy kids play hard at practice. So I think halfway through the season, they had just had enough of me. But I learned a lot from him, certainly, and especially being around Reggie and everything that he brought to the game.
How much different does it feel, that first practice and then getting to practice with Reggie White? How much different does a club feel from Reggie White as opposed to your opponents when you're at the Naval Academy?
Well, so again, like I've never even taken a pass set really at the academy. It's like it's like
you're firing off the ball and you're going into the run game.
So
yeah,
I'll give you another one because just to put it in perspective. So I was pissing off Santana Dotson in like week 8 or 9 because they're on like Pro Glide and I'm trying to figure things out still. So like Jeff Dallenbach and Frank Winters are giving me little pointers, but really they're just sitting me in there like a little pit bull terrier trying to tear everybody's head off, and I don't know what I'm doing.
You're like Rudy essentially with Vince Vaughn in the movie when you're going too hard. And he doesn't want to be playing too hard.
Right. Tempo violator all the time and unapologetic for it, by the way, just completely unapologetic for it. So Matt Willick's over playing right tackle. He's, the guy that's doing all the movies now. And when he comes over and goes, hey, switch with me. It's like 3rd down period. And I go, okay. And I'm thinking like, oh man, I got to go against Reggie White. I'm going to get him. I'm going to show everybody how good I am. So the first one, I take my pass set and I just hit him with everything I got. And he just picks me up and like runs me right past the quarterback. Okay. And but he's not going to sack the quarterback. It's practice and everything. So the next one, it's 3rd down and 8 or whatever. And we have another pass pro. And I go, you know what? I don't care who this is. I don't care if it's Reggie. I don't care how many sacks he has. I don't care he's this guy. I'm going to level this guy. And I took my 3 sets, my 3 kicks, and I put my heart and soul into hitting Reggie White as hard as I could. And you guys have all seen what he did to Max Lane, Naval Academy guy, New England Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
When he flipped him on his head. Okay. Imagine Max Lane, but he rotates around another time and lands on his back. The whole practice stops because everybody on the planet, everybody who was watching practice, everybody on the grass knew that Reggie was setting me. I had been asked to go over there so Reggie could abuse me in front of the entire team for working too hard. Reggie flips me on my back. I'm laying up like this. And Holmgren comes over and he just looks at me. He goes, "Get your ass up. He's flipped he's clubbed a guy's a lot better than you." And I just went,
wow.
Well, yeah. You want to talk about real welcome to the NFL moments? Like, man, I don't know how people blocked him at all because he was unblockable.
Is that how you ended up in Seattle? Was Holmgren?
Yeah, I think so. When I left Carolina, they were obviously a team that I would love to go to, given the fact they were on the West Coast. They were a great organization. I had relatively bad experience. I had bad experience in Carolina with my shoulder injury and recovery and everything, and the way that had gone. And so I just really wanted to get back to being in a place where I thought would be a good experience for me, being on the West Coast and being around my family, having family be able to see the end of my career. And Holmgren called up and gave me an opportunity to play. And unfortunately, I blew up my shoulder again, like 7 games in, man. But Mike Holmgren's awesome. Like, I think it's sad that now there's so many coaches that aren't teachers, because Mike Holmgren's a real teacher. Like, Frank Winters could get up in red zone period on Friday in red zone meeting, and he could teach red zone install. And I'm talking all the routes. He's our center. He gets all the routes, all the defenses. Like, Mike Holmgren and his staff are those kind of guys. They were real teachers. And there's just a lack of teachers in the NFL right now. And I think that goes to what we were talking about earlier. Maybe that's partially why we don't see the quality on the field that we used to.
Yeah, and to that, I mean, you had Mike Sherman was on that staff in Green Bay. I'm just tying it. Andy Reid was there. I don't know if Gruden was there or had already gone.
He had already gone, but yeah, he was a guy. Yeah,
that tree is really the where we ended up in this era. Everyone's pointing to McVay, and I think of all the coaches on that staff and where they branched off to, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it really is. And you just think about Mike Holmgren was I think it was a high school teacher when he started out and before he went to San Francisco and all these different things. And that philosophy and just really, really taking the time to teach people how to do their job and win their 1v1 matchups and all the detail that goes into being a really good individual player and then you become kind of a cog in the bigger pick in the machine. That is a lost art. And when I look back on it, I see what's going on now. I see, I've been in buildings, since I retired, and you just really appreciate the craft of being able to teach at a really, really high level, communicate at a very, very high level.
Tell us about the On My Block pod and what you're up to at a weekly basis. I know you do a lot of film breakdown.
Well, yeah, I still work with athletes in the NFL, so I still break down a lot of film and work with some guys and improve their technique and game prep and game reviews and do all that stuff with guys in the league. And Amon Green and I work on this On My Block Packers podcast, and we've been doing it for a year now. And for whatever reason, I never really broke down tape. And somebody asked me, like, can you just start breaking down some of this tape because you see things the way that not necessarily everybody else sees them. So I started breaking down tape, and everybody all of a sudden the show's got much more popular. So I think I'm gonna have to continue breaking down tape. But I'm one of those guys. Like, some people like to cook, some people like to go shoot hoops. I break down tape for 4 or 5 hours a day. It's just fun for me. So anytime I get a chance to talk about football and talk about the technical side of the football and winning your matchups and all that goes into it and the preparation. That's what I'm all about. Mike
Wahle has been our guest. You can follow him at Mike Wahle68, and you can get some clips of what he's discussing there on the tape. Mike, this has been great, man. Thank you for the insight and perspective and the storytelling. It's been a lot of fun.
Continued good luck with the pod.
Hey, thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. There's Mike Wahle, the defensive line. I remember my parents, we went to church for that Super Bowl. And so I on a VHS tape, I taped the pregame and then the kickoff of that Super Bowl. And I still remember watching the starting lineups and the Packers defensive front that was announced. Incredible. And he was
in New Orleans, right?
Was it New Orleans? I don't know. Probably.
With Favre holding up the helmet and
John
running?
Madden's
I was at the game.
Al Michaels and John Madden are calling the game, and you've got, it was epic. And then the grainy footage on the VHS. Pretty cool.
He's got grainy footage on his VHS, and I've got a press pass. There's our age difference.
Yeah. Coming up, we discussed some more NFL headlines. We've got overreaction across the league. Later, we're going to get into some big topics across the SEC and more on OutKick 360.
Was there a moment that you always look back to from Black Hawk Down and you said to yourself in that moment, I am not making it out? Like, I will not survive today because of this one thing.
It was kind of the entire day, the entire night. There was a portion of time, I think, in the middle of the night where things kind of calmed down and it wasn't as chaotic, and we were just kind of sitting waiting for guys in helicopters to get extricated and things like that. And it wasn't until the sun started to kind of peak back up where you're like, oh, this is going to turn back on again. But for the initial assault and 2 or 3 times that I went out into the city, it was just, I don't think any of us are going to make it out alive. And so every time we would kind of get back and be secure and all right, get more ammo, and we're going back out to try and find this other crash site. And I didn't think that it was happening for any of us. I kind of came to peace. I was just telling my son about this actually the other day, but I kind of came to peace with, okay, if I get hit in the chest, like I've got a plate carrier, hopefully that stops it. If I get hit in the arms or the legs, chances are I'll live. And if I get hit anywhere else, it's probably going to be pretty quick and traumatic and over. So I hope that I remember thinking specifically in the middle of the afternoon, I hope that I can just like look at the blue sky and have something peaceful to look at, not this whole, what I'm looking at in front of me. I hope that's not my last moments. And that kind of gave me a little bit of peace.
This one, I picked it because the caption's just frankly funny. And it's also geotagged your mom's house. It says balls deep, as we used to say, long before it was a popular term. The meaning to us referred to how far into bad guy territory we were. These are a few pics from that day, and also a pic of us getting ready to go. We lost a mate on this day, Andy Fernandez. Although he was brand new to the unit, he had just been assigned, he left his mark, and will forever be etched into historic endeavors. R.I.P. Andy. So I know you probably can't get into specifics. The caption's hilarious, the top half of it anyways. But yeah. Are you able to say anything about what this Instagram post is in relation to?
That was post gunfight. I think it's been talked about in some book, someplace. So I don't read any military history stuff. So I don't know. People will send me things sometimes where like, oh, this must be from this book that so-and-so wrote about. Like, I don't know. It was kind of post gunfight. We were outnumbered and surrounded by, 130, 150 dudes, and had, at least beat everybody back enough that, that was kind of that moment when that picture was taken. So we didn't necessarily know at the time, like it was any gunfight is a scary moment, and, you don't really necessarily know the outcome. But it was almost, for me and where I was, it was almost a fun gunfight. Like they couldn't hit me where I was, and they couldn't hit my group where we were based on the terrain. And so we were almost kind of laughing, running back and forth, shooting at these guys over here, go grab some more ammo, go shoot at these guys over here. And so it wasn't, a terrifying moment. It turned into not to be a terrifying moment. But then we started hearing radio calls, hey, we got some people hit and injured, and okay, well, now this is a serious thing. It's not a funny thing anymore. And if anything, the post kind of reflects that, where,
right.
initially, hey, haha, fun. This was, a good day. And then, somebody paid the ultimate price that day. And but that's about as much as I can say.
If you missed our chats with Mattress Mack or with Mike Wahle, you can download the audio wherever you get your podcasts. Just search out OutKick 360 as we're live from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Coming up, our playoff eliminators for the NFL this week, plus NFL's best. I've got the NFL awards column up at OutKick.com. We'll run through that. Paul and Chad can tell me where I've missed the boat, missed the mark on this week's rankings. So Robert Quinn traded from the Bears to the Eagles. There are a couple of accounts that are tweeting this, and I was looking this up during the break to see, the validity, because I automatically look for the blue check mark, and when they're not there,
which is smart.
Yeah.
There are a couple though that are pointing to a potential trade where the Dolphins are looking into Jerry Jeudy. Of course, Jerry Jeudy played with Tua at Bama,
hurt?
and a potential trade to add him in the mix as a third with
Who's
Waddle.
their third right now?
Right now they have, it's between Cedric Wilson, who's been banged up, I believe. They also have
Preston Williams still there?
Craycraft, Cedric Wilson, Craycraft, and one other, Sherfield.
Okay.
Sherfield as a third. They may not need him. I was trying to search this, but we're going to see a lot of these little
Teams are in
rumors
go
between
for it,
now
no.
and Tuesday.
You know, who could
that's a go for it.
You know, who could use Jerry Jeudy? The Titans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a team that's right now 4-2, leading their division. That would be a nice piece to add.
In these pieces that everybody's doing, it's a trade deadline thing, and so The Athletic or Sports Illustrated, every team reporter is putting in one. Jerry Jeudy is the popular name for the Titans. I don't see them doing it.
Hey, earlier we were talking about the Lions. DeAndre Swift, who's been banged up, full participant in practice today for Detroit. Just take that into account. When he was in the lineup, they were actually scoring, Paul.
Yeah. Once upon a time.
Yeah.
Seems like
Last
ancient
month.
history.
Yeah, I know. Headlines. When we return, we'll talk NFL and SEC football in the final hour of OutKick 360 across the OutKick network.
What's up? It's Hutton, Dockich, and Withrow from OutKick.com and OutKick 360. Don't add him with Dan Dockich. It's time for the 3 and 60. 3 questions, 60 seconds. It's that simple. Let's go.
What sport isn't in the Olympics but should be?
Flag football.
Would you rather try to tackle Derrick Henry or get tackled by Daniel Falele?
Knowing I've been tackled before, I don't want to try to tackle Derrick Henry because he would tackle me, so I'm going to serve myself up again for someone that I think would not hit me as hard.
If you could only watch PGA or live for the rest of your life, what are you picking?
Live, because it's all about the money, all about the dollar. And that's what the PGA is about, too. They should admit it.
The Eagles have acquired Robert Quinn, maybe the most, I was going to say underrated. He's very highly rated, but we don't talk about him among the best pass rushers.
Kind of forgot.
In Chicago. OutKick 360 rolls on. That's the big headline of the day. Eagles get Robert Quinn from the Bears in exchange for a 4th-round pick. Phillies World Series tickets are among the most expensive ever, starting in Game 3.
I like that. I like when stories like that are out there. And people going to live sporting events for a lot of money. I like that.
Well, it's a sports-crazed city that hasn't been there in a long time.
And, Chad, you like to interpret quotes and how certain stars react to either positive or mainly negative news.
I do.
Matt Ryan has addressed the Colts quarterback change.
He has.
The quote is, "I'm personally disappointed, but I'm here for the team." Your thoughts?
My interpretation of what Matt Ryan is saying is that I'm going to get paid regardless.
That's true.
And I am not happy about the way the offense has been managed. Some of that's out of my control. Some of that is within my control. And there's nothing I can do about a team that is essentially tanking. And I haven't been that good either. So I'm going to sit here and shut my mouth and collect my paychecks and be a good teammate, which Matt Ryan has always been known to be. So it's not going to help him one bit if he goes on a crusade and talks bad about coaches or ownership or GM or whatever, or his teammates. So he's taking the very sensible approach. But reading between those lines, he's essentially saying, you're still going to have to pay me, so do whatever you want.
Well, he's come to terms too, Hut, I think, with what's been widely reported, and that's that there's not a chance for them to circle back to him, because if he suffers the injury that he's on the verge of suffering with that protection, it puts them at risk of having to guarantee some money next year if he can't pass a physical in March. And they're not taking a risk that he can't pass a physical in March because they're moving on to something young and promising, and they don't want to be on the hook for money.
They also,
it's unfortunate for him.
A lot of people are saying that the Colts are waving the white flag. They're tanking. I don't buy. To me, just surface level, they were doing a great job of losing already.
Right.
As it was. Like, if you want to continue to lose, just continue doing what they're doing.
You actually, look, I mean, I don't think the replacement is a good player, but he is a mobile player. And mobility with the line struggles that they're having could produce some results. I can't remember where I heard it. I wish I could give credit. Ellinger they have the quarterback represent the game plan on Friday. Like, okay, we've worked on this all week, and here's what it is. And I
think it's Albert Breer, maybe.
Yeah, I can't remember what the situation was that the starter was unavailable to do this. Wentz last year, I think, was maybe out.
Yeah, he was out with COVID.
And Ellinger gave the game plan. And a coach who was in the room, I think, told Breer it was phenomenal the way he presented that. Now, we have a tendency to get super excited about stuff like that. Like, oh, it's got great meaning or whatever. Well, the kid could be smart, and he could be a great public speaker, and it could mean absolutely nothing about what his understanding of the game plan translates to. But we also have a tendency, I mean, it's a reasonable tendency to want to grasp at anything exciting about your potential quarterback, right? And that's where the Colts are right now. They're grasping at something to be excited about the guy who's taking over. And we can allow them to be in that position right now.
Well, let me change the phrase tanking, because I don't think what they're doing is tanking per se.
They're not wishing to lose.
Here's what they're doing. This is when the Titans went to Zach Mettenberger. You might as well see what you have. It doesn't matter. They are waving the white flag, I think. They're not saying we're going to go out there and try to lose. But what they're saying is season feels like a bust.
We know where we are.
The Matt Ryan experiment, a bust. Let's not stress that. Let's not press Matt Ryan into action. Let's play the kid and see what he has. And then if it works out, great. We're not trying to lose. We're trying something different to see if we can change our fate. But if it doesn't work out, we're also not upset because we're going to end up getting a high draft pick. That's what they're doing. It's not outright tanking, but it's what else do you have to lose? It's similar to what we've been saying about Texas A&M in the college game. Play Wigman, the freshman, because what do you have to lose at this point? Let's see what you got, right? Let's stop playing where you're pressing and just go out there and play and see what happens. You're not really that upset at this point, one way or the other.
And you'll take what comes at you.
Trade deadline coming up on Tuesday, and we've already seen some action. So Robert Quinn traded today again from Chicago to Philly. Christian McCaffrey's now in San Francisco. Robbie Anderson traded to Arizona. James Robinson is now the running back because of the injury to Breece Hall. He's been traded from Jacksonville to the Jets. And Jonathan Hankins to Dallas, from the Raiders to Dallas for more defensive line depth. That happened yesterday. So already some movement, and not just those. I mean, those guys are not backup pieces. Those are legitimate starters headed in to help some teams potentially continue their winning ways or continue to climb towards a playoff.
All
push.
heading into good situations. Look, here's one I'd like to see. If this trend continues, I'd like to see Kareem Hunt to the Bills. Right? He's not McCaffrey, but he's probably the next best thing in a pass-catching running back role. And
he's
they
what
were
Isaiah
in on
McKenzie
McCaffrey.
was before they moved him receiver.
Yeah. I'd like to see that move for the Bills. I'm content with the Bills, but the fact that they were interested in McCaffrey tells me they'd like a little bit more there. And to me, that's a sensible move.
So teams making moves because they're in playoff contention. There are others that we're moving to our list, our weekly list of GTFO for NFL teams. Here's my current list as we go into Week 8. I've already eliminated the Texans, the Jets, Raiders, Panthers, Broncos, and last week I added the Bears. I feel awful about the Jets in Week 2 based on how they're playing because they continue to win. 4-0 with Zach Wilson, even though he has not been great. They've been running the football with Breece Hall. He's now injured. They trade for James Robinson. But with their current record and 5 wins, they're in the thick of it. They can really make a move, not just within their division, but for a wild card spot. If I can move one out and replace them, I would take the Jets. I can't. I'm keeping them there. And this week I'm adding the Washington Commanders. The Commanders are coming off of a win. Defensively over their last 3 games, they're allowing just 18 points per game. Over the last 3 games offensively, they're averaging 17 points per game. This is awful. They're down to Taylor Heineke. They won this past week against Green Bay. Granted, they won. That's all that counts. But I'm eliminating them this week because Green Bay failed to convert on a single third down offensively. That's not going to happen moving forward with offenses they're going to face. And yes, I realize they faced the Colts this week. I'm selling the Commanders. They should have been on my list way before this. They're not making the postseason. Washington, GTFO.
That's your best point. You could have put them on the list a long time ago. They could beat Green Bay. They could beat the Colts this week. They're not a playoff team.
Isn't that weird?
I mean, they're very much the 4th place team.
Isn't that weird, though, we're
in their
saying that
division.
after a win over Green Bay?
Yeah.
Oh, they can beat Green Bay or the Colts, but, definitely not a playoff team. Wouldn't have thought we'd said that about the Commanders at this point in the season.
But they got 3 teams better than them in the division.
So my list, and we all have our regrets on this list.
Sure.
Those,
I don't.
Those regrets.
I don't have a
those
regret on
regrets
my list.
will grow. Well, I say we all do, except for me, because I have no regrets right now on this list. Week 1, I put the Commanders out. I still like that pick, even though it's a great win for them over the Packers. Texans look like the worst team in the league right now. They're vying possibly with the Panthers for that role. So that was my Week 2 and 3 picks. The Colts feel great about that now, especially that they're going away from Matt Ryan to Sam Ehlinger. Broncos, we all know my feelings about Nathaniel Hackett. He's one and done. Russell Wilson just looks bad all of a sudden. That's a team that's not going anywhere.
And he's playing again, Chad. So
he's back.
They're going somewhere. They're going to London this week where they're going to lose to the Jags. But that's where they're going. That's the only place they're going, though. They're going across the pond to lose a football game. Outside of that, the Broncos are going nowhere. They're not riding. The Broncos country not riding. And last week I went with the Bears. Boys, it's weird to say, but I feel worse about the Bears on this list right now than any other team. But that's to say, I don't have something like Hutton's Jets pick that you feel really bad about right now. So I feel good about my list. This week, I'm going to add another NFC North squad. The Detroit Lions are up next on my list. This is my favorite roster on the list. I like the talent in Detroit. They should be a lot better. But the problem is they're 1-5 right now. And if I'm going to sit here and say, I feel kind of bad about the Bears are 2 games clear of the Detroit Lions in the NFC North right now. So I can sit here and talk about how good the roster is and how they should be better. And I like the offense the first few weeks. Now the offense isn't any good to go along with the defense. That's been horrible from the start of the season, led by Aaron Glenn. The Lions make my list this week. They're out. They are GTFO of playoff contention, according to me.
It's a good list. It's a strong, good
Feel good about the list.
Here is another good list. It's slightly better than your list. Panthers, Week 1. Commanders, we've covered this. Texans. Bears, that game the other day was still, a one-off, and they might play slightly better, but they're not anywhere near the playoffs. Steelers are terrible. The Broncos are terrible. And this week we'll add the Raiders, who are also going nowhere. But I like the Detroit pick a lot. And I think you could probably consider them my block for next week. So Oakland, I slipped. Las Vegas is my addition this week. There they are. And I feel very good about this 7-pack. I keep waiting for it to get harder and to have a real tough choice, but hasn't come to that yet.
The Raiders are on the road this week against the Saints and headed to New Orleans there after hosting the Texans a week ago.
So I'm working on a column, and
that's a good elimination game, by the way, for us for next week.
Yes,
the loser of that game. I'm eyeballing that one the way I eyeballed. Was it Commanders Bears a couple weeks ago? I'm thinking, all right, the loser of this is going on my list next week. The loser of that one may be on my list.
I'm working on a column for which I just found this, which fascinates me. New Orleans is 4th in total offense. This is yardage, granted. 14th on defense. We all came into the season and said the reason New Orleans has a chance at anything, and I mean, Peter King picked them to the Super Bowl. I didn't like them, but I thought they could be a problem for some people because they're a good defensive team. The offense maybe would come around with the draft picks and the fill-ins and stuff, but that quarterback was going to be a problem with Winston and or Dalton. Dalton is the guy now. I never would have thought, though, that the offense would rank 10 spots ahead of the defense. I'm really surprised.
Their defense is allowing 6 more points than they did per game last year.
Yeah, that's a bad drop-off. And that's your defensive coordinator taking over as your head coach.
And that is, exactly. And that is what Peter King had to be banking on.
He was
the Saints were going to be, if not the top defense in the NFC.
Yeah, a team that would push people around.
Yeah. And they're not doing that.
I'd love to ask Peter King if he, in all of his years of making Super Bowl picks, if he's ever had a team in the Super Bowl that ended up with a number 1 overall pick, because that could be where the Saints are headed.
Well, I don't think they have a pick though. I think they've traded.
That's true.
Philly has it.
Well, the worst record. Then just say ends up with the worst record in the league.
They're not that bad because here we are with 7 teams eliminated. None of us have eliminated the Saints yet.
Top players
they're in the next batch
from Week 7, available now. OutKick.com. I've got the NFL awards. Patrick Mahomes. Simply because Josh Allen didn't play. Patrick Mahomes is the leader for the most valuable player this week after what he posted after the interception last week in San Francisco. He went on to lead scoring drive 6 of the next 7 possessions after the interception were Chiefs scores. And he's battling Josh Allen back and forth for the most valuable player right now. I still have Hurts in the mix there. He's coming off a bye week this week, and he's got the Steelers on Sunday, Jalen Hurts, and then 2 matchups, Thursday against the Texans and then the Commanders. Wow. This should be a 3-pack of games where Jalen Hurts lights up the stat sheet.
Yeah.
And he can climb and get into the discussion with Mahomes and with Allen.
He's got, at the end of those 3 weeks, I bet you he is at the top of your list because those are some stat padding games. But
I wonder what odds you could get Jalen Hurts preseason on MVP.
I don't know about that. That's a great question.
I mean, he's a great story. Eagles are a great story, but the fact that he's on your list, Hutton, and your column,
he's been there throughout.
Think about the odds you could have gotten on that, 4 months before the season started.
I'd like to parlay money line wins on or spread wins on all 3 of those games right now. But that's the kind of place where a team slips and loses one that you just don't expect. But it's really hard to see them losing one of those 3.
I've got Justin Jefferson as my offensive player of the year currently. And this has been back and forth.
Quiet, and the Vikings have been quiet.
He's not been quiet. He is on pace for the 4th most receiving yards in NFL history for a single season.
I mean, the hype about him has been quiet.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, he's been the only producer even in games they've lost. They were 2 weeks ago. They converted just 2 third downs in a game and lost on the road. And was it New Orleans or Miami?
It's their lone loss. They're 5-1.
They in that game they did nothing. And it was Justin Jefferson putting up a ton of numbers. Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, they're also in the mix here. They're the top 3 receivers right now in the league, and they're vying for the offensive player of the year.
Going back to Justin Jefferson, Hutton, he is so good that I start to hear arguments about Kirk Cousins not being any good, and he's only a byproduct of Justin Jefferson on his team. So you always get the thing about, hey, is the receiver that good, or they just have a great quarterback? It's flipped now to where people want to make the argument Kirk Cousins is not good. He's just a byproduct of having Justin Jefferson on his roster. That's when you know you have a great receiver.
I'm
when
curious,
that argument is actually being made.
I'm curious how Miami recovers. Obviously, they didn't score a lot of points. What was that, 16-10 game?
Yes.
Their bounce-back game with Tua back in the lineup. I like Tyreek Hill the most of those three based on overall body of work, but is Miami's offense going to get back to more standard output? Because he still had output without Tua for 2.5 games, but they lost all three of them. His pace was terrific. Slowed down a little bit with that 16-10 game.
Sucks for Breece Hall because he was on pace to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He was excellent over the last 3-4 weeks especially, but very consistent for the Jets' run game. They were averaging over 5.5 yards per carry whenever he was on the field, 3.4, I believe, 3.6 when he was off the field. A big drop-off from number 1 to the late 20s in the league. To me, Kenneth Walker III can now climb, and he's listed this week in the column. And Chris Olave from the Saints right now, I believe, is the best of what's been a very good rookie crop of receivers early in the first round and throughout. Some of the big producers, when they're on the field, have produced. Like Jahan Dotson, he's banged up. He's got a hamstring issue. But when he was early on in the season, he was coming into his own. And Garrett Wilson, same way. When he's been healthy, he's been very good. Olave's been the most consistent. He came back from a concussion protocol. He's had 5 consecutive games with at least 50 or more receiving yards.
What does Andy Dalton do for him? That's the limitation on him to me.
And that can hold him back. But no matter the quarterback here, even with Taysom Hill starting a game and finishing a game, he has been consistent. He's been the one true threat. Michael Thomas has been out. They've had other receiver issues and injuries, and Olave's been the go-to guy.
So I just saw this come up on Twitter, and it ties into what I was saying about Nathaniel Hackett in Denver. I don't follow George Karl, the former Nuggets and longtime NBA coach, on Twitter.
Right.
But I was alerted to this because our buddy Dan Dockich retweeted George Karl. George Karl just tweeted out right now, I always support coaches and would rarely advocate for their firing, but Nathaniel Hackett needs to be done in Denver with the Broncos. The search needs to begin immediately for someone who can connect with Wilson and make him a good player again. Nathaniel doesn't appear to be that person. That from former Nuggets coach George Karl. Dan Dockich retweeted that and said simply, jackass, to George Karl. I agree with George Karl.
I thought George Karl
So Dan probably thinks I'm a jackass too, but I think Nathaniel Hackett should be done. I don't think he should be fired right now, like George Karl is saying, but hey, if you know, you know.
The biggest surprise here to me is that George Karl isn't dead. I thought he was dead.
Wow.
He had
I didn't know
cancer. I remember Real Sports about his cancer treatment. It says in his bio, Hooper, UNC, ABA, coach, 1,999 NBA games. Why not go for the one more for 2,000? Storyteller,
Sometimes they fire you.
Truth in Media, Hall of Fame 22, still living in Denver. So I guess he's in media? There you go.
Analyst.
George Karl's done. Living in Denver, he's seen enough of Nathaniel Hackett. And someone responded and said,
He's 71.
Does Russell Wilson get any of the blame here? And he responded and said, the GM needs to go too. Was his response. All right. Hey, George Karl. He's got an opinion.
So Brandon Cooks is not practicing, non-injury designation in Houston.
And
chances are he's been mentioned. He's been traded a lot throughout his career. In 2020, that was his 6th NFL season. He'd already been traded 3 times. He was traded. He was dealt to New England. Then he went from the Saints to New England to the Rams, and then traded again for the Texans. And he's been traded for first-round picks. The Texans gave up a second-round pick for him. He's in a class of his own in terms of what he's been traded for and how often he's been traded throughout a number 1 threat wide receiver's career.
I can't believe he's not amongst the league leaders in targets, because they don't have much else down there, unless you're throwing to a back a lot. They're not loaded at tight end. I drafted him every chance I had because I thought he'd be targeted like crazy, and he has not been. Ryan Tannehill did not practice. today. Now, he said it was going to be a walkthrough. Vrabel didn't. But, I mean, if he didn't practice in a walkthrough, that's pretty meaningful. Jeffrey Simmons didn't either.
I wonder what Cooks could get, what the Texans could get here. Right now, they've already got 2 top 5 picks based on where the Browns are selecting. In 2017, the Saints traded Cooks to New England in exchange for a first-round pick and something else. The Patriots then flipped him, traded him to the Rams for a first-round pick and something else. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. The Rams, they trade Cooks for a second-round pick from
the most
Texans.
traded guy in NFL history?
So, no, well, just for the high value. Three trades, 2 first-round picks, and a second-round pick.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And now he's on the trade block again.
Down. How old is he, do we think?
I think it's his 8th season.
Yeah, I think it would be down now to Chad was
4th or
asking
5th round
earlier
pick?
about Jerry Jeudy. I mean, Jerry Jeudy, I think, would be a 3rd or maybe a conditional 4th, and Cooks, I think, around behind that.
I mean, the Rams should be in the mix for him, honestly. You're just thinking about what he's done. Right this season, he's averaging 10 yards a catch, 28 catches on the season, and a touchdown.
It's really blah. But, I mean, you have no doubt the guy would do better somewhere else if they focused on him.
Yes, and Mills has not
he's
been
ailing
good
in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, Mills has not been good delivering in the football either. Run first. Texans loading up on as much inventory as possible for the draft. So, again, non-injury designation for Brandon Cooks today in practice.
They've got an interesting offseason ahead of them.
Coming up, we get into college football. We discussed Tennessee and Kentucky, one of the top games in the SEC. And the narrative that I think, the perceived notion that Kentucky is going to control time of possession with their run game. If you actually look at what Kentucky's done, it's hard to convince me that's going to happen at all Saturday. We'll discuss. That's next on OutKick 360.
So we have a predetermined order that we're going to go in, and what we're going to do is we're going to drive tailgate food and or drink. I know Hutton, he's going to go with drinks more than likely. I'm going to start with food. We're going 1, 2, 3 in order, 5 rounds. Tailgate draft, here we go. Guys, I'm all about functionality. I love to just hold a bun out and then have that bun filled with a hot dog from someone fresh off the grill. I'm going hot dog with my #1 overall pick because of that functionality.
Well, I'm going beer. If there's no beer, I might as well be in church. Who cares if there's no beer?
True.
Chad screwed me by telling Dockage what my plan was here, so I'm taking the burgers. And is this snake draft? Is it my pick in the 2nd round here?
Yeah.
Wings, burgers and wings. I own them.
I'm going with ribs. I love ribs. I'll eat ribs. Good ribs, bad ribs. I don't care. I'll eat ribs and beer.
I'm going to stay consistent because I'm all about functionality. You need shots at a tailgate. You need an occasion to gather around as a community and take a shot of something. I don't care if it's Fireball, bourbon, whatever you want to go with, tequila. You got to have a bottle of something in handle form that you can shoot out of. That's a key.
I tell you what, Jello shots are pretty daggone good, but I'm going nachos as well. Look, you give me queso, you give me chips. When I am on death row, I'm going to ask for shrimp and nachos and beer.
Give me the brats. That doesn't count as a hot dog. I'm going brats with the next pick. I've got burgers, wings, brats. I'm crushing this the same way the Jets crushed the recent draft.
Do you go again?
It's my again, isn't it? After that, did you take all shots? Like all liquor?
Yeah, I guess that I had 2 picks. It was a shot of tequila and a Fireball shot, and then I went back to you. I didn't really make 2 picks, but that's how we're going to do it.
Oh, you should have done that, so go ahead.
You want me to go again?
Yeah.
Chips.
Because he didn't do 2 picks.
I'm going to go with chips for this reason. If you're getting drunk at a tailgate, you're going to want some carbs at some point, so chips are key.
Well, chips are certainly a key, but I got to have a dessert. I got to have brownies. You can put whatever you want in the brownies. Don't matter to me. It's a Saturday or it's a Sunday. Well, I've never done it, but I've heard. And I like brownies. I love brownies. No, I really love brownies. Brownies should have been my first pick.
So at this point, I've got to have something to drink here. So if Chad took all liquor, I'm screwed here because I have no beer or liquor, correct?
Well, I took tequila and fireball shots.
Oh.
So you can go with something else.
Yeah, give me the moonshine. Give me Old Smoky Moonshine. We're good to go on all flavors. I own the entire rack at 6 and Peabody.
Well, I guess because of how much we're drinking apparently and eating, I need my wife here to be a driver. In the draft, I need a designated driver apparently. But you know what I think we're missing? I do think we're missing, you mentioned chips. I assume you mean nacho chips, that kind of thing. You know what I need? I need peanut butter pretzels. I'm gonna tell you right now, little pretzels with peanut butter in the middle of it. Don't knock it until you've tried it, particularly with wine. Hard day, you're having a glass of wine, get yourself a jug here from Costco of peanut butter pretzels. Unbelievable.
So I'm about to win the draft right here. I think this is my 5th and final pick. I don't know. I'm bad with numbers. Boys, pigs in a blanket. Can't go wrong. Put a little mustard out, have a huge platter of pigs in a blanket. It fulfills everything. It's got your protein, it's got the carbs, it's wonderful, and it's perfect for any tailgate.
Yeah, I'm gonna go pulled pork with my last one. You throw a big plate of pulled something.
That's a good one.
Slap some whatever barbecue sauce you like, hot, not. You need it. Maybe a bun, maybe you don't need a bun. Doesn't matter. You don't even need a fork. Just use your face.
Or get those claws on it where you mix it up and pull it apart. I love doing that.
Going. Yes, there you go. Go pulled pork.
You know what? This will not shock Chad at all. We're going with the straight run through of all the vegetable platter,
the veggie
salad,
tray,
everything, the veggie tray.
You just lost.
That's honestly what I would eat, and I've already thrown the best tailgate food ever, and I'm taking my food in the last pick.
Hunt would be perfect for a tailgate in San Francisco or Portland, Oregon with that. With the vegan selection, it would be perfection.
I would imagine we all think we won the draft, but when he went to veggies, I know who lost the draft.
But okay, fair.
But you look good. You're skinny.
Tied for 1st and 3rd. That's how we're gonna do it.
Dockets is in Nashville.
He's back.
Love it.
He's back.
Here's to Nash Vegas, baby.
Cheers, boys.
Yes, sir.
OutKick 360 rolls on. We've got the cocktail party between Georgia and Florida this week, and also Tennessee and Kentucky with the black helmets on full display for the Vols.
I like the black helmet look. Typically not a fan of traditional schools with traditional uniforms going non-traditional, but I like the all-black look for Tennessee better than the smoky gray. I don't know if you guys agree or not.
No, I like it. I think it looks better, too.
It definitely looks better than the white helmet they had last year, where it's kind of a little bit more rushed. The uniform looked good, but the white helmet, just the black outline, does not look as good as black head to toe with the orange power tee.
I like it, but I agree with you about I don't think teams with a lot of tradition should mess with their traditional looks.
Well, this is also kind of a side insult to Kentucky fans, because Kentucky sees Tennessee as one of their top rivals, if not the top, every year. And Danny White, Tennessee's AD, said, we will wear traditional uniforms, white pants, orange uniforms, for our traditional rivals and games of huge meaning. So then Tennessee's going to break out all black uniforms against Kentucky, which I'm sure they're taking.
That's a little dangerous.
I'm sure Mark Stoops is using that as motivation, that they don't think this is a big matchup.
It's a little dangerous in the games of huge meaning. If somehow they lose this weekend and get accused of looking past Kentucky, that'll come back.
Yeah, someone would probably point that out, but I understand what he's thinking.
Yeah, no, I do too.
Right?
Makes
like,
sense.
I thought it was weird that they wore smoky grays on the road at LSU, because it just looked weird on the road because LSU wears the white. But I understand that being a game you do it for, right? You don't do it.
Alabama,
but basically what he's
Florida.
saying is Florida, Georgia, Alabama. Those are the three games that you're going traditional.
Doing some digging on some stats here, and there is a perception that Kentucky's going to control time of possession with their run game, which has been good, but
They
not
average
great.
about 35 minutes, right?
So Tennessee has rushed for 672 yards in their conference games this season. Kentucky has rushed for 538. Kentucky has played one more game than Tennessee. And again, it's Tennessee's 672 to Kentucky's 538. Tennessee's passed for nearly 1,000 yards in that same time span of the conference games. Kentucky, 839 yards. Tennessee scored 43 points in those 3 conference games on average. Kentucky has averaged 21. I don't see where this is some matchup of time of possession versus Tennessee's offense. Tennessee, they rank 121st nationally in time of possession. And guess what? It doesn't matter. Kentucky can try to control the clock. The difference is Kentucky defensively must be able to get multiple stops. Tennessee's punted 3 times in 3 conference games.
Which is just
Let
an
that sink in.
insane stat.
I don't understand those that are pushing this. Kentucky's run game is what's going to win this game. It's got to be Kentucky's defense, not Kentucky's run game. You can try to play keep away all you want to. Fact of the matter is you're going to have to score more than 21 points in your conference matchups. They're not doing that. So I don't see how the Kentucky team that we're watching is a Kentucky team that competes against the Tennessee team that we've been watching. They've rushed. How does Kentucky line up and control the clock? They've rushed for 50 yards, 70 yards, 103 yards, 108 yards, 121, and 239. They beat Florida with 272 yards of total offense. That's not going to happen Saturday. You're going to have to put up more points. I keep hearing about how they gave Ole Miss a game, 328 yards of offense. They've been playing bad football. Now they're good. I mean, but they've been playing bad football. Tennessee has not been playing bad football. So if Tennessee loses this game, it's because they have beat themselves or had like the worst performance since Josh Heupel's been the head coach. Those are the 2 ways that this offense doesn't do what they've always done.
Time of possession is vastly overrated when you're playing a quick strike offense. If
If
you win time of possession because the other team is scoring in 18 seconds, in 1:40, in 2:30, it doesn't matter. The points trump the time of possession stuff. And the other thing here for me is that Kentucky doesn't rush the passer particularly well. So if they're going to play well on defense, they're going to have to find a pass rush that hasn't been present.
It's a really intriguing matchup in a number of ways. And those numbers are very interesting that you throw out there, Hutton. Kentucky's offense has not been good relative to the really good offenses in the SEC or across college football. So then you have to ask, is that kind of by design and that they're just trying to milk the clock for a great defense? Well, you look defensively, Kentucky versus Tennessee on defense, I mean, it is decimal point percentage difference in plays they allow, yards they allow per play. The defenses really aren't that different. Tennessee's defense has been better, I think, than people would give them credit for.
Exactly.
Now, they're in the 100s in pass defense. They're 8th in the nation in rush defense. So, that's chicken and the egg also, right? People are going to throw it more because you're susceptible to pass and you're good against stopping the run. But they have stopped teams that can run the ball well. They've stopped them for the most part this season. Kentucky is a rushing attack. So the only way I see Kentucky winning this game, for reasons as you brought up, it's because Tennessee hasn't played the way they have all year. It's sort of the Pitt formula. Tennessee was pretty bad in that game, and they found a way to win on the road. They fell behind 10-0, and then it was almost 17-0. I think that it would take Kentucky going up 2 scores, not 1, 2 scores in the first half and trying to sit on it. It would take Tennessee stalling on drives. They had a problem in the second half at Pitt. They would move it and get it to about the 40, and a drive would stall out. And they were in no man's land. They'd have a 4th and 8 and wouldn't get it. They had turnovers in the game. That's really Kentucky's route, is just muddying the game up enough where they have a chance. Here's a stat from Cole Kubelik of SEC Network. Tennessee has scored 30-plus points in 10 straight games, longest streak in program history. Kentucky has allowed 24 or fewer points in 11 straight games, longest active streak in FBS. What he fails to tell you, though, is the last time they gave up more than 24 was against Tennessee.
Yeah.
And they gave up 45. And to your possessions point, Hutton, Tennessee had 4 offensive possessions the entire first half, and I believe they scored on every possession. against Kentucky, even with only 4. And that was Kentucky scoring also with long drives. That's how they limited possessions. But it didn't matter a year ago in Lexington when I thought Tennessee was worse, much worse than they are this year, and Kentucky was a little bit better than they are right now a year ago. Would you agree?
Yes.
With that assessment?
Yes. And so I think where we like the conversation, not us, but just collective public, missed the mark on Tennessee is I think the viewpoint is that their foundation's on the passing game, and that is blatantly false. Their foundation is in the run game, and they can beat you multiple ways. And there are multiple stats you can go pull to find this. The big plays. They have 31 passing plays of 25 or more yards, 10 plays of 50-plus. Both of those, by the way, lead the country, lead college football. The run game, though, against LSU, they ran the ball 49 times for 263 yards. Against Florida, they ran the ball 42 times for 227 yards. Against Alabama, they ran it 39 times for 182 yards. But if you want to shut down the run game, have at it, because they're going to hit you for 25 plus, 50 plus. That's what makes this so different this year is you pick your poison. Kentucky's got a good, and they can shut down teams that run the football well, but can those teams also throw it? Can they sling it around the yard? Chances are not like this, not leading the country statistically, no. In all 3 of those games, though, Florida, LSU, Alabama, they outrushed the opponent. And I think even more impressive is the fact that in all 3 of those games, Hooker threw multiple touchdowns in those games, and they still outrushed their opponent. So I'm just not buying this Kentucky as a contender. Tennessee absolutely should win this game and move on to Georgia as we see number 1 versus number 2 in the country.
I think a common misconception about Tennessee's offense is what you just laid out, that it's a pass-happy, air raid type system. It's not. They are very close to 50-50.
Yeah, Hooker averages over 300 yards per game.
Yeah, they run more than they pass.
Right.
In terms of play distribution. They are
it's a very rare combination.
On the run and the ability to beat you deep with the pass. That's their offense. And Hooker's also been terrific about he's good on design runs when they call it for him, but he has excellent timing so far this season on 1, 2, 2.5 reads and go. And when he goes, it's a big play.
So poor.
A lot of times it's a 3rd and 8, and he's going to get 17 yards because he takes off at the right time, and he's got the ability to pick up some big yardage.
You know, the other thing, too, I should mention, Kentucky can also win this game if Hooker gets injured. Like, let's just mention that, too. Because I feel like nowadays you have to caveat everything with every possible scenario, or you end up in old takes.
Well, and on the flip side, Tennessee blows out Kentucky if Will Levis gets injured early in this game, based on what we saw from Sharon. They're back up against South Carolina.
It's just a very rare combination of big passing plays while almost simultaneously being an offense with a foundation on the run. And that's the overlooked part of this, where Tennessee's going to run the football too, but they're going to score so fast, they're going to snap the ball so quickly that Kentucky's offense is right back out there, and Heupel's cool with that.
Yeah, and I think Kentucky's chances offensively less in just pounding the rock against a good Tennessee run defense and more of Tennessee blitzes more than any other team in the SEC. They're going to get after Will Levis. They got after Jaden Daniels and a bad offensive line for LSU. I would compare this Kentucky offensive line to LSU's. And Tennessee got to Daniels a lot in that game. They're going to try to do the same early and often against Kentucky. They need to develop a dink and dunk game. I mean, it's got to be quick, short passes, get rid of it quick, and utilize clock that way as opposed to just pounding it with Chris Rodriguez. Rodriguez is a great player, but from what I've seen from Tennessee's defense with their warts, I don't see Kentucky just lining up with their offensive line and handing it to him over and over for some huge day against their defense.
Well, at some point, we mentioned this too about the Florida matchup for Kentucky. Will Levis is going to have to answer the bell, because there will be a point in this game where Kentucky's going to have to answer with a score, and late in the game. And if they don't, they punt it back. It's similar to Tennessee and Bama last year, not this year, last year, where it's early in the fourth. It's a 1-possession game. You go for it on 4th and 2. You don't get it. Turnover on downs. Bam, you're down 14. And from there, you can't chasing's not worth it because of how their offense is built. Wan'Dale Robinson's not there, by the way. We should also throw that out there. Like the home run hitters are Barry and Brown, and you mentioned someone else earlier in the week that you wanted to pay attention to.
Dane Key. Their leading receiver is Tavion Robinson, who's a Virginia Tech transfer. But those are two guys who have big playability. Barry Brown's really good returning kicks, too. So he's an explosive playmaker.
Yeah, on special teams.
But here's also Will Levis with a chance to prove a lot. But keep in mind, Tennessee against Anthony Richardson of Florida and Bryce Young of Alabama gave up career days to those guys. They were terrific in those games. They still won, right? They still won the game. So this is Will Levis's opportunity to have a big day against Tennessee. It may not matter. Tennessee's offense may just be that good. Will Levis could have a career day on Saturday night against Tennessee's secondary, and they still may lose by 10 just based on the way Tennessee's offense is playing.
And we've said several times this year, not games as big as this one, but here's a chance for Will Levis to establish himself, to separate himself, to show he's what people have talked about and everything. How often is he, he hasn't had those games.
Well, think about this, Paul. If I told you going into the Alabama game that it wasn't going to be Milroe starting for Bryce Young was going to play and be completely healthy and have maybe the best game of his career, and Tennessee was going to win, I would have thought I was crazy for saying that. But that's what they've done. It's not like they've gotten bad performances out of quarterbacks. Daniels was pretty bad against LSU in a blowout, but against Richardson and Bryce Young, some of the bigger name NFL prospects on their schedule, they've given up big days to those guys, and it hadn't mattered. Tennessee still won.
They've got a formula.
Here is Will Levis's chance to have a big day. If he doesn't,
he's not going to.
And he's bad, Will Levis, look out.
Well, he can, yeah.
Look out, because that's where it could get ugly.
He can be good. He's not going to be great.
Well, he could be great, but
he was really good a year ago statistically.
Yeah.
But he also threw a pick six that turned the game around and gave Tennessee a 2-score lead in the game. That's been his problem.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be like I don't think he's carrying them to a win.
The thing I like about Will Levis is his confidence because he does not lack it.
No.
If you ask him about his game, he's going to tell you, like Chad was saying earlier, like, I'm the next Josh Allen or whatever. But he can have a big performance type game, but the narrative I wanted to touch on, though, was run the ball, control the clock. Kentucky's got to score, right? Like in conference games, they're averaging 21. That's not going to win a game. Tennessee's not going to lose 21-17. So you got to convince me that they're going to put up what they did last year. And this Kentucky team, I haven't seen that. And this Tennessee defense is better.
I just read a prediction: Tennessee 30, Kentucky 26. I mean, I'd be surprised if Tennessee only scores 30.
I think those people
Under
are
40
thinking that
maybe,
you
but
just kneel the ball out and try to, you get 3.5 yards per carry and get a first down. I don't think that's the way to beat Tennessee this year.
What's the lowest point total we can envision for Tennessee?
We're not early in the season, right? So I think they scored 38 in overtime. They got to overtime and scored 38 against Pitt. So we're not early in the season. We have 7 games of representation for both teams. Tennessee was pretty bad in one of those games against Pitt, and they found a way to win in overtime against a Pitt team that does not look that good anymore, as good as they were at that point in the season. It's just going to take a game like that. You would have to say Tennessee has been great for 6 other games. They'd have to play exactly like they did in the one bad performance, and Kentucky would have a shot in a close game.
What do you think they score?
And Kentucky would have to be great.
What's the low end of what Tennessee scores? I would think they score 40, but I would say 37.
I mean, if Kentucky has a couple of 8-minute touchdown drives in the game, then 35, I think, would be a realistic mark for Tennessee at that point.
Hit us up on OutKick 360 with your thoughts. We get you ready for the sports evening coming up, and we'll look ahead to what's on deck for Thursday night football. Pretty good matchup, by the way. That's next on OutKick 360.
Was there a moment that you always look back to from Black Hawk Down and you said to yourself in that moment, I am not making it out? Like, I will not survive today because of this one thing.
It was kind of the entire day, the entire night. There was a portion of time, I think, in the middle of the night where things kind of calmed down. and it wasn't as chaotic, and we were just kind of sitting waiting for guys in helicopters to get, you know, extricated and things like that. And it wasn't until the sun started to kind of peak back up where you're like, oh, this is going to turn back on again. But for the initial assault and, you know, 2 or 3 times that I went out into the city, it was just, you know, I don't think any of us are going to make it out alive. And so every time we would kind of get back and be secure and all right, get more ammo, and we're going back out to try and find this other crash site. And yeah, I didn't think that it was happening for any of us. I kind of came to peace. I was just telling my son about this actually the other day, but I kind of came to peace with, okay, if I get hit in the chest, like I've got a plate carrier, you know, hopefully that stops it. If I get hit in the arms or the legs, chances are I'll live. And if I get hit anywhere else, it's probably going to be pretty quick and traumatic and over. So I hope that I remember thinking specifically in the middle of the afternoon, you know, I hope that I can just like look at the blue sky and have something peaceful to look at, not this whole, you know, what I'm looking at in front of me. I hope that's not my last moments. And that kind of gave me a little bit of peace.
This one, I picked it because the caption's just frankly funny. And it's also geotagged your mom's house. It says balls deep, as we used to say, long before it was a popular term. The meaning to us referred to how far into bad guy territory we were. These are a few picks from that day, and also a pic of us getting ready to go. We lost a mate on this day, Andy Fernandez. Although he was brand new to the unit, he had just been assigned. He left his mark and will forever be etched into historic endeavors. R.I.P. Andy. So I know you probably can't get into specifics. The caption's hilarious, the top half of it anyways. But yeah. Are you able to say anything about what this Instagram post is in relation to?
That was post gunfight. I think it's been talked about in some book, someplace. So I don't read any military history stuff. So I don't know. People will send me things sometimes where like, oh, this must be from this book that so-and-so wrote about. Like, I don't know. It was kind of post gunfight. We were outnumbered and surrounded by, you know, 130, 150 dudes, and had, you know, at least beat everybody back enough that, you know, that was kind of that moment when that picture was taken. So we didn't necessarily know at the time, like, it was you know, any gunfight is a scary moment, and, you know, you don't really necessarily know the outcome. But it was almost, for me and where I was, it was almost a fun gunfight. Like, they couldn't hit me where I was, and they couldn't hit my group where we were based on the terrain. And so we were almost kind of laughing, you know, running back and forth, shooting at these guys over here, go grab some more ammo, go shoot at these guys over here. And so it wasn't, you know, a terrifying moment. You know, it turned into not to be a terrifying moment. But then we started hearing radio calls, you know, hey, we got some people hit and injured, and okay, well, now this is a serious thing. It's not a funny thing anymore. And if anything, the post kind of reflects that, where, right, you know, initially, hey, haha, fun, this was, you know, a good day. And then, you know, somebody paid the ultimate price that day. And yeah, but that's about as much as I can say.
Been a fun show. Big thanks to Mattress Mack, Mike Wahle for joining us, former Packers offensive lineman. So good stories there. If you missed portions of the show, you can find it anywhere. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Just search out OutKick 360 or just search us out wherever you download your podcast. We'll tell you about Thursday Night Football. But first, I'm looking over here at this Aaron Hernandez on your screen?
Yeah, so almost was had on Twitter by a fake account. A friend of the show, that Trey, who has tweeted the show a lot, tweets me
Trey
and
Wallace?
says, I look forward to Trey Wynn, actually.
Okay. Oh, okay.
The very conventional Tres spelling of Trey.
Thank you, Trey.
But he sends me this story, and he says, I look forward to Withrow breaking down every part of this show. And it's from an account, and I glance at it, and I thought the account was Discussing Film, at Discussing Film, but it's at Disbussing Film. Tweeted this out, and all of Hollywood apparently has taken this as something that's not fake, and people are having to correct.
This is the Richard West.
So here's the tweet. Following the success of Dahmer, Netflix is producing an Aaron Hernandez limited series with John Bernthal in the leading role. So here's and I like John Bernthal, the actor, playing
Very
Aaron
similar,
Hernandez.
yeah.
What's he
But
from?
I see
It
it, I'm
does
like,
look
well,
like
that's believable.
What's he from?
Right?
Bernthal.
He's in right now. He's in a show called American Gigolo on Showtime, the remake of the Richard Gere movie from the early '80s.
You love male prostitute TV.
He's got a small part in Wolf of Wall Street. He's in what's the fighting movie? He's in Warrior. Is he a part of that too? As one of the trainers, maybe?
Philomena.
Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
Philomena.
I
You like that one,
He's
huh?
also in Philomena. It's a great,
You like that one?
great character piece that he was in that. He's a good actor. I enjoy his work. He's in the HBO series We Own This City. That it's a follow up to The Wire. That was out this past. I've not seen it, but he's the star of that as a crooked cop.
Sometimes you come in and you just machine gun me with these TV shows. It's just too much.
Fury,
Too many.
the tank movie. Yes, with my guy Shia LaBeouf.
Ravens and Bucks tomorrow
who's a
night.
nut.
Finally, an interesting matchup to find. I mean, there's plenty of storylines here. Tons of them. The Bucks coming off a loss.
Bucks just need a win.
Yeah. And the Ravens have struggled to close out games, but did this past week. They got a special teams touchdown against the Browns. It was a difference.
And the Browns missed that field goal.
24-20
that
was the
had
final.
No chance in hell of reaching the goalposts, better yet getting through them. I mean, it's still relatively early. But if the Bucks are going to show signs of life, it's getting to be time.
It's not early. We're nearing the halfway point, and the offense has been so bad. Again, I go back to what I brought up earlier this week. Arians, that's got to be a storyline. And you've got 10 days after this game coming up. If they show up, they're back home. Tampa is for Thursday Night Football. That's the storyline tomorrow night for me.
We got to go back to the
does
weirdness of turning it over to Todd Bowles and saying, I want to turn you over a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, he's I don't know how good the thing he is that he turned over was, but he's not making it any better.
I mean, Super Bowl team, playoff team, and now Todd Bowles. The Bucks look like the Jets.
They're being challenged by the Falcons.
From Todd Bowles.
Falcons had $78 million of dead money.
Not great.
Now that dead money is the Colts' problem. We're back at it tomorrow for OutKick 360.
Hey, read that sign. Don't block the box. And be sure to lock your locks. See ya!